What up, y'all? It's the homie Dame. You read the title. Today I'm going to be ranking the 10 anime tropes that I hate the most. Well, maybe not the most, but they're the 10 anime tropes that I hate off the top of my head, I guess. Now, I tried my best to keep this to very anime-specific tropes, because there are a bunch of tropes and cliches that apply to both anime and fiction writing in general. So, I tried not to include stuff like that. That means you're not going to see stuff like, oh, I hate it when love confessions get interrupted, because that's something you see in many mediums, not just anime. And I have done videos like this before. I made a tier list ranking some shonen anime tropes, and I made a video ranting about new generation tropes that I hated. But this is gonna be more overarching general. It's just any tropes that I've seen in the medium at any point. So if you're all on board, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. At number 10, I have RPG/video game power system. The last time I talked about annoying anime tropes, this also came up. And it's also something I just generally complain about on this channel. Basically, whenever an anime's power system involves stereotypical video game mechanics like leveling up, having tangible skills and attribute levels, I roll my eyes and vomit in my mouth a little bit. It's so ubiquitous these days that they'll just throw an RPG leveling system into any fantasy show now. I recently made a video about the Red Ranger Isekai, and even they have levels and HP bars and like mana amounts and skill. Like, why? What does that have to do with being a Power Ranger? It literally plays no role in the story either. They just throw it in there because, oh, it's a fantasy world, it's got to be like a video game, right? It just takes the fantasy out of fantasy. Why not come up with some other power system instead of being like, oh, people know how video games work, our world is just like a game. If you have a higher level, you're stronger. And check it out, our protagonist is level 99 in all stats. That shows you he's really strong. I swear, the day that ReZero tells me Subaru is level 27 or something is the day I finally lose my mind for good. Matter of fact, this might be my number 1 most hated trope. I'm starting the list out with the worst one, because it even shows up in anime that I really like. Like, tell me why we need to know the stats of all the Konosuba party members. Well, it did set up a good joke about Aqua having low intelligence and luck, so I guess it was worth it for that. For number 9, I have Dere archetypes. But not just Dere archetypes. I get annoyed with characters who are just their Dere archetypes and nothing else. Cause y'all know me, I'm the biggest tsundere and yandere fan in North America. But those tropey characters that I like are more than just, their trope. Like Rin Tosaka is the poster child for tsunderes, but she's not just a tsundere, and she doesn't just do the tsundere bit 24/7. Being a tsundere is just one aspect of her personality amongst other things. What I don't like is when a character is just a tsundere or a himidere or a kudere and that's it. Because essentially you're just writing a flat, boring character. It's the same idea as disliking those bland isekai protagonists or cardboard harem protagonists. The point is, they're just boring characters to watch. Now, you may say, well, Damian, you love the show 100 Kanajo and there are a bunch of Dere archetypes there. True, but that's also part of the joke. So someone like Karane being a tsundere is not just her being tsundere, it's her being so tsundere, it's like a source of comedy. So you see, the point is I just don't want to see boring characters. Number 8, I have the every girl is an innocent virgin trope. You know what I mean when I say this, right? No matter how little it makes sense, no matter how much it conflicts with their personality, all the female characters that are meant to be waifu bait for the viewers are pure, innocent virgins who have never known the taste of dick in their lives. This applies to like every female rom-com or slice of life lead. And I know most of these stories take place in like high school or middle school, but let's be honest, a lot of people lose their virginities as teenagers. I did. You probably did. It's not a requirement, but let's not act like it's uncommon. But it's not just about being a virgin, it's never having a boyfriend or even liking a boy. And it's even worse when it applies to characters it shouldn't apply to. Like, why is everyone in Chained Soldier a blushing maiden? I mean, it's not explicitly confirmed, but we can assume by the way a lot of them act. These are women who are college aged or in their 20s. I mean, I'm not saying you gotta be like Angela White out here, but damn. But I understand the reason why characters are written this way, and it's a reason that applies to a lot of other tropes on this list. A lot of anime and manga appeal to the otaku fantasy. I don't want to stereotype or generalize, but many otaku are, not that good with women. So these stories give them waifus that are as unthreatening as possible to give them maximum appeal. Oh, you're 37 years old and have never had a girlfriend? Don't worry, your waifu is just as inexperienced as you are. No need to be afraid. And that's the thing. A girl with a past represents a fear that many otaku don't want to have to deal with in their escapist media. It's as simple as that. But catering to otaku is not the only thing anime and manga is good for. The medium has so much potential to tell other stories, and it does, but I just want to see more of it. Number 7 is basically like number 8, but it's more specific, so I won't spend too much time on it. It's the freaking out over indirect kisses trope. I don't need to explain this one to y'all. I'm sure you've seen it in at least one anime you've watched. Let me just say, no human being does this. Nobody. And you might be saying, oh, but Damian, people in Asia are a little bit more innocent about this sort of thing. No. No, they're not. Nobody gives a fuck. No one is shaking and blushing over an indirect kiss from a water bottle. I'm Asian and I eat ass on the first date. I don't give a fuck about sharing a Coke can with you. Now, I understand being worried about germs and stuff. I mean, I care about that. I'm not sharing a water bottle with some random I just met. But I get it. This trope is supposed to be cute. It's supposed to show the innocence of two star-crossed young lovers. And it's fine in moderation. Sometimes it's even funny, but it doesn't need to happen all the time, and it doesn't need to happen where it's not necessary. That's why one of my favorite anime scenes of last year was when Okuran gave Ira CPR in Dandadan and no one made a fuss about it. Number 6 is a very simple one, the girl who can't cook trope. It's supposed to be funny, right? Hey look, this girl can't cook. That's it. That's the joke. Haha, it's funny because women are supposed to be good at cooking. Haha, get it? And it doesn't always have the sexist angle. Sometimes it's just funny to see a normally competent, well put together character fail at a mundane task. But again, it's a trope for a reason. It's because it shows up a lot, and I just think it should show up less, that's all. Number 5 is similar to number 6. It's the trope of making breast envy jokes. Y'all ever see a scene where a not so well endowed girl looks over at a girl with big milkers and is like, what does she be eating to grow those things? Or when a flat-chested girl is the butt of all the jokes, like, you have small titties, It's really not that funny. Cause let the shoe be on the other foot, and the joke is that some dude got that mini meat and motherfuckers is rioting in the streets. Y'all remember that scene where Sai says Naruto got that shrimp meat down there? I've seen so many Naruto fans twist themselves into pretzels trying to defend their blonde goat in that scene. But then it's all jokes when Sakura gets jealous of Hinata's big honkers. It's like, alright man, come on. Number 4 is the last trope that has to do with any ecchi or fan servicey stuff. It's the peeping on girls in a hot springs trope. We all know those anime with a hot springs episode, and inevitably one of the horny guys gets the bright idea to try to peep on the female cast while they're bathing. The more responsible members of the group might protest, but they ultimately end up going along with it. The most notorious example of this that pisses me off the most isn't even in an anime, but the Persona video game series. It's the same idea, right? The main cast goes to a hot springs, and regardless of what the characters are normally like, and no matter how contrary it is to the message of the game, the boys will try to peep on the girls. Or they won't try to peep, but through a wacky series of events, they'll be caught in a compromising position, and the girls will assume the worst of their supposed friends, and they'll start beating on them because haha, it's funny. Spoiler alert. It's not funny. Number 3, flashing lights and lasers in the sky equals good action scene. So you'll hear me say this all the time on this channel, that anime is such a great medium because of the endless possibility. You can do so many things in animation that you can't do in live action, even with all the budget and CGI in the world. And many times this has created incredible, memorable moments. But sometimes you just get an epileptic mess on the screen and they call it a peak action sequence. Now, don't get me wrong, shout out to all the underpaid, overworked animators who do their best to create these Sakuga scenes. But this does nothing for me. I don't even know what I'm looking at. Give me a coherent, well-choreographed fight scene where each movement is purposeful rather than just look at all the lines and colors we can put on screen. A recent example is that Garfield fight from ReZero Season 3. Sure, it's a great scene, very emotionally impactful from a storytelling standpoint, but I couldn't tell you what the fuck was happening the whole time. I don't know how they were doing all this nonsense in a tiny-ass room with civilians like 2 feet away. To be fair though, maybe I'm just old and my withered eyes can't comprehend all the movement I see on screen. I don't know. Everyone is an acrobat who can do parkour. This is another super niche and nitpicky complaint, but it's still something that bothers me a lot. It always seems like no matter what a character's main power or ability is, they will always have some baseline ability to jump high and do kung fu parkour flips. Like, it makes sense for something like Naruto when all their characters are doing that, because they're ninja, right? It's probably in their basic training, regardless of the other jutsu that they know. But why is Rin Tosaka jumping around like Spider-Man and tanking hits from servants? Sure, you could say her magical circuits bolster her physical ability, and she's also an athlete that works out too. But at the end of the day, she's just a Japanese girl who's really good at magic. Wouldn't it be more satisfying if she was more physically limited in comparison to the servant summoned by the Holy Grail? That's what makes Subaru from ReZero so great, because he's very limited physically in what he can do. He's an athletic kid and he's been training, but he still needs his little whip to get around instead of just parkouring everywhere. But even still, we see him doing things that physically should not be possible even for the most athletic human on the planet. Like LeBron James is not surviving some of these hits. Of course, these are just cartoons, so there's some level of suspension of disbelief. I'm not here to be that much of a, well, actually guy, but it just seems like being agile and acrobatic and somewhat tanky are baseline things that you just automatically have in addition to whatever other anime power you also have. Like, think about a Western character like Magneto. He's one of the most powerful mutants alive, but physically he's just an old dude. And you know, he probably wouldn't be able to jump around buildings and shit without his powers. Compare that to someone like Todoroki, who is explicitly stated to rely too much on his quirk in a fight. Even he is capable of agile physical feats without the use of his quirk. Now, of course, he's probably way more physically conditioned than Magneto, because they literally prepare you for stuff like that in UA. But doesn't it cheapen the abilities of characters whose whole thing is being physically capable? Like the Sugar Dude or the Tail Dude. I don't know their names, those two memorable, beloved characters. I don't know, I guess this one isn't that big of a deal, but it's still something that annoys me. And finally, my number one trope is something I also mentioned hating in my shonen anime tropes tier list video. It's the trope of power level determined by your ranking in an organization. You can honestly go check out that video to get the in-depth explanation of why I hate this trope. Also, I'm pretty proud of that Michael Vick's Academy for Dogfighting joke that I made in it, so yeah. But basically, many anime will have some upper body organization that comprises of the best users of whatever power system that story has. In Shokugeki, the best chefs are the Elite 10 Council. Naruto has the Akatsuki and the Kage. Bleach has the Gotei 13 with lieutenants and seated members. You can always tell how strong someone is by how they rank in said organization. It gives a concrete, objective measure of power and where the protagonist is in relation to that power. I mean, how many times in Bleach have we heard the phrase captain level, or in Naruto, Kage level power, whatever that means. It just makes things so blatantly measured out and mathematical. And I know how much Asian people love their math, but shit like this is very unfun and uninspired for me. Like, imagine if something like this was in the MCU. And mind you, I don't even like superhero movies like that, but this is just an example. Obviously, we know that some heroes are stronger than others, and we know that some of the top dogs are part of the Avengers or are affiliated with them. But you're never gonna see something like the Billboard top 10 hero ranking like in My Hero Academia, because the storytelling doesn't really have anything to do with measuring power levels like that. But you know, anime fans, if there's one thing they love, it's power scaling. And having an objective power ranking in an organization makes it very clear who is stronger. So when you argue with someone on the internet about who can beat who, you have sources you could use for your MLA citation. But yeah, otherwise, that's that. Those were 10 anime tropes that annoy me the most. Comment below which ones you agree with and which ones you maybe aren't bothered as much by. And of course, tell me the anime tropes and cliches you like and or dislike. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe, and donate to Patreon to see full-length uncut reactions to many different entertaining shows. But yeah, that's the video. Peace.